Welcome to Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z. This podcast is all about conversations about healing and rising from the ashes of your grief and trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Zampatella. It is my sincere hope that this podcast is going to give you the words and the understanding to help you heal through your grief and trauma. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Z with Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z. I am here with Chris Warren. He is a professional counselor at the Center for Grief and Trauma Therapy. And today we're going to be talking about the loss of student athletes, and specifically in the role of a mentor and a coach in working with two high school students who died by suicide.
Thank you for inviting me and sitting down and talking to me about this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, as you said, that I'm a professional counselor, and it was in preparing for that role and going back to school for that role. A big influence was the student athletes that you mentioned, if not really almost the number one influence for going back to school and getting that education in the first place was the student athletes that you mentioned there. So I met them as a coach at an attempt to be the best mentor as possible for them. Right after my undergraduate degree, went straight into coaching from there.
Okay.
So I graduated with that undergrad degree in 2013, and the winter of 2013 is when I first started coaching. And all told, did that for about 10 years before going back to school to get my master's degree in counseling psychology. But, during that time, I was mostly coaching high school student athletes. There was a period of time where I coached some college athletes, and that segues a little bit into one of the athletes you mentioned. Big part of that story was my time away in coaching college athletes. It influenced the way in which I kind of grieved that loss a little bit differently. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So the one athlete who passed away, who died by suicide, her name was Gabby, and she died in 2016.
And she was how old?
She was would have been, I believe, 17 years old. Yeah,
okay.
She was a senior. She would have been set to graduate the year that she passed away. It was in December of 2016, and so she would have graduated in the spring of 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that point, I was kind of firmly rooted in my role as a coach at the school that I coached at. I had been there for a number of years. I was in my element. I was in my groove. I feel like I kind of established myself there. But I was always trying to make a career out of that at the time. So I was always trying to kind of elevate myself to the next level. So keeping an eye on moving up to the collegiate level. So what I meant by it being a little bit different is that after Gabby had passed away, that summer after she had passed away, I had received an offer to coach collegiately and accepted it. So I actually left my position at the high school I was working at. And it would have been that fall, the year that I left, was when the second student athlete, his name is Chris, passed away. So I was actually in a completely different state, 18 hours away when he passed away.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And he died by suicide as well.
Yes.
And so you're out of state and you find this out.
Yes.
And all right, well, let's talk a little bit then. Let's start at the beginning in regard to what it was like for you to lose a student athlete by suicide. Because not only do I want to talk about what was it like to lose her, but also in navigating the other student athletes and what it was like to be in a role. Because I think that we can apply this to a lot of different kind of mentoring roles where you have a lot of, adolescents who are maybe in your care, because there's so many things going on at that age developmentally. And I think that there probably was quite a bit for you to navigate what was going on for them socially, since that's a huge part of their adolescence.
Sure.
And then asking yourself about your own role and where, if you questioned anything about yourself. And we certainly know that it has guided your career because now you're specializing in working with survivors of suicide.
Right.
So for multiple reasons, and as we know. So Why don't we start there?
Sure.
So, what, when did you when did you find out about Gabby?
Right. So one of the things about coaching, and I think that I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think that I speak for a lot of coaches probably when I say that a lot of us weren't in it for financial gain. A lot of us were in it for, hoping to make a difference and wanting to kind of improve somebody's life a little bit, because yeah, it's not the most lucrative business.
There's no
But
money in it. There's no money in the school district as it is. But yeah, absolutely. So you're doing it for the love of it.
right,
Right.
and so wrapped up within that was that, at that time, just trying to juggle a lot of different pieces, working part-time jobs, trying to make ends meet, et cetera, et cetera. So to answer your question about finding out and learning about her loss, was actually, I was on my way to my job, my part-time job that I worked during the day before going to coach in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
So it would have been, she would have died at night, and it was kind of the next morning, essentially, is when I found out. So I had actually received a phone call on my way to work from a parent on the team that I coach. So
Not even the school.
correct, yeah.
Nobody at the school contacted you. A parent
Correct.
contacted you.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so it was a parent of a student athlete that I coached,
Okay.
not Gabby's mother, but just or father, but another parent had just actually, I believe, sent me a text, if I'm remembering correctly. Did you hear the news? And then gave me a phone call while I was on the way. So receiving that phone call and just hearing it again, quite in the middle of a drive, I remember having to kind of pull over and park because I was essentially in hysterics when I got the news. So I could not drive in that state.
So you say hysterics, and if you don't mind me probing a little bit, because I
Sure.
think one of the things that, are the people who watch and listen to this podcast are trying to understand their own experiences of loss and normalize it.
Yeah.
Because we will tell ourselves, well, we shouldn't have reacted that way, or whatever we do to kind of take away our right to grieve the way that we did. But hearing it from, first of all, a person in a position of authority, a position of caring, but also you being a man. What we do in our society in regard to, basically teaching men you're not allowed to have your, reactions. They have to be very stoic. And you just said a word that probably we don't hear a whole lot from, and when we talk with a man who has been shocked with something that has happened, which was the word hysterics. That was a long way of me going around to say, can you just describe hysterics? It's not funny. I'm just like, wow, like, yeah, intense.
But even just kind of taking myself back into that moment a little bit to try to, yes, like I can feel my heart rate start to quicken a little bit. I can feel, and this is really what I think about as you kind of asked me that question, is like I can feel my stomach drop, right? And that's what I remember most about that moment, is that my stomach just kind of drops in this like moment of disbelief, that something like this could have happened. And then in terms of what I meant by the hysterics, really, if it follows that, is just like that, again, like crying to the point I have to pull over, right? Because I'm crying to the point in which I can't even see anymore. It's now dangerous for me to be on the road, really. But again, I was on my way to work. I didn't really control when that phone call came in. So yeah, it's just it's that stomach drop of disbelief, the tears that kind of immediately follow that, and yeah, just trying to kind of process that news, that information that just seems so unreal.
What did you do?
I do think in that moment, the first thing I did was quite literally call out of work, and just really tried to. And I think that this is where the coaching role comes in, right? Is this sense of like almost damage control, like what do I do when something isn't going the way it's supposed to be going at practice, or I was a cross country and track coach. I don't know if I mentioned that, but at a meet, right? If something's not going the way we need it to go, I need to kind of figure out how to pivot and move and do what needs to be done to fix the situation. So, get a hold of whoever I need to get a hold of, talk to whoever I need to talk to, whether that's another coach or an athlete or whoever. It almost kind of even like defaulting to that role in that moment of like, okay, what do I need to do next?
So here we go into the problem solving mode,
Yeah.
pulling on not only your experience of the roles that you've had in your life, but also maybe how you operate in life. Where there's crisis, you go into problem solving mode. Not everybody goes into problem solving mode.
Sure.
So some people can't really quite get there. Is that kind of like your own way of
A little bit, yeah. I
dealing
think
with
it was
crises?
largely influenced by my role as a coach. There are moments where that does happen, and would happen in my personal life. But being a coach kind of changed a lot of things about me, and I think that that's one of them.
Yeah, the problem solving. So who did you contact?
Well, that's it. One of the more interesting things about that was that there was the attempt or the feeling that I needed to problem solve, but also like the sense of again, disbelief and shock and not knowing what was needed for that, right? So, do I need to contact my team? Do I need to contact my administrators? Do I need to, I need to call out of work now? There's all these things I need to do, and I'm not knowing what order in which I need to do them or even how to do them, right? All of a sudden I'm thinking about all my laid out plans for practices and, what do we do now? What's the protocol? What's the next step here? And that is just unclear. There is no protocol for
So
that.
everything's disorganized.
Right.
It falls apart. How do we pull the pieces together? What are those pieces going to look like? And not really, not knowing what to do. But how did you feel about her peers, the other student athletes that you were working with?
Yeah.
Like, did that come up for you right away, or was it something that came in later?
It did. It did come up right away, right? Because one of the things I do remember doing pretty immediately was reaching out to my team. We had our methods of kind of group texting, group chatting, essentially. Through various apps that were safe to use and things like that. And so just trying to figure out what it was that I could do to support them. That was again like one of the things in which I was going to problem solve and kind of damage control.
Yeah.
Was how these student athletes that I was there to help mentor and serve every single day. What did they need from me in that moment?
How did you find out what they needed, and what was it that they needed?
The one thing that the time of year, it was the indoor track season, so it was in December. It was during the winter, and the reason why that's relevant is that just the indoor track season, we still practice outside, so the team shrunk a little bit. Some people would go to do basketball or they would go swimming. Gabby actually was a swimmer during the winter. She ran cross country in the fall and then outdoor track in the spring, but she swam during the winter. So I didn't have quite as many people in that very moment that I had to manage. Like, it was a smaller number of student athletes than I would have been used to in the fall or spring. So one of the things that I remember doing was just kind of reaching out to everybody and saying, like, do we still want to meet today so that we can kind of talk about this and we can see what we need to do, right? Or what you guys need from me, or what would be best for us to do kind of going forward through this, right? So we actually did hold a practice that day. It wasn't a practice in the sense that we were going to go and do like a workout or anything like that. But I know as a runner myself, running was a way for me to cope. It was a way for me to regulate when things were difficult. So I wanted to at least extend the offer that, like, hey, we can meet. You guys can go for a run if you want to. You guys can talk to me if you want to. We can do something. I just want you guys to know that we can still do something, but we also don't have to. I just wanted to make sure that the groundwork was there, that, like, hey, the support is here, at least from me, if you need it.
I love that you provided them choice. Because autonomy is so important in adolescence. And I think when there's a loss, it's already out of our control, right? We can't stop people from dying. We don't have control over what happens in how other people are going to respond. So what do? You provide structure is one thing I'm hearing you say is like, you do have a net here.
Mm-hmm.
Your net is your opportunity to make a choice about whether or not do you want to talk to me, where you have support, because a lot of adolescents won't turn to their adults in their lives. They want to turn to their peers,
Right.
right? And that's normal. They're individuating, but you're in a unique position in that it's not quite, it's like you're not their therapist,
Right.
but you're also not the teacher. You're not their parent. You're the person that has a very unique relationship where it's a lot of positive reinforcement and guidance. And I imagine other kinds of skills. Like if you think about the skills that you have as a coach, how do you think, like, what are those skills that came into play? I don't want to assume. I'm sitting here listing them and I'm
Sure.
like assuming, because I used to teach martial arts. So I'm
Right.
assuming my own thing here, and I'm like, wait a minute, that might not have been his experience. So what skills did you bring at that moment to provide these group of adolescents the choices that they need in order to just even navigate the beginning of finding out about how she died and their grief?
Yeah. One of the more kind of interesting things about at least running as I coached it, and also just how I learned it from my coaches and mentors, is that it's a team sport because you're on a team, right? Track and field or cross country, you are contributing to a team score, but people also refer to it as an individual thing as well, because a lot of people say it's you against the clock. You're trying to improve your personal best. Yes, you're contributing to the team effort, but it's also kind of you against the course, or you against the track, or what have you. So there's this kind of sense of like group dynamic, but also individuality to it as well. And then just this sense of like self-improvement and kind of like building up yourself, right? So some of the things that I've learned from running, or some of the things that I have brought something to me, is this building up of self-esteem, this building up of confidence, this idea that like, hey, I can kind of overcome anything, right? So I felt that I tried to, as best as possible, kind of instill that in my athletes, try to bring about hopefully some confidence, hopefully some ability to say like, hey, I can do this, I can kind of overcome anything. But it's okay to also kind of like rely on my teammates as well, because while this is an individual thing and it's important for me to improve my own time, it's also important to support my teammates and allow them to support me too. So in this moment, amongst kind of like tragedy, like my hope was to incorporate that as much as possible. At the time, a lot of this is reflecting back, having the knowledge that I have now about grief work and about trauma work. But I realized a little bit of what I was hoping to achieve is like, yeah, you're going to grieve the way you're going to grieve individually. But we have this very unique group of people here that are trying to accomplish similar goals, and it's okay to lean on each other too. And I think that by holding that practice, even on a day where, everything was getting canceled because there's this terrible news, like at least we have that moment to try and rely on each other a little bit if we can.
So everybody having their own individual experience, but also the team having their experience. One of the things, there's two things that came to my mind. Like one of them is that with teenagers, when it comes to loss, they sometimes certain losses can make them feel like they're very different than their peers, right? We're trying to be, blend in with our peers. We're trying to figure out who we are in comparison to our social world. And when there's loss, sometimes they can feel a little like, well, nobody gets me.
Right.
If I lost my father when I was 15, a lot of people don't know what to say to me, so I end up, and it gets sticky, right? But in this case, you have a group of individuals, along with all the other students at the school, by the way. We're not even, we still have the entire student body, because I
Right.
remember when this happened, and I mean, I was getting calls at the practice of like, hey, can you be there for us? And we were like, yeah, of course we can be there for you. But in a team setting, there's the loss of the individual, but there's the loss of the way that the team understands itself
Sure.
as well. Would you say it's true?
I think so, yeah. And there's as you say that, I even recall there's one student athlete that comes to mind really, who was quite close with Gabby, and very much as I got to know her, very much had her kind of identity built up around this concept of being a runner, being a cross country athlete, being a track athlete. It was she very very committed. Was one of the more committed people to the team. Showed up to every practice, showed up to every meet, always gave it 110%, and that continued to be the case. It was just that this loss really, I felt, kind of impacted that sense of identity for her a little bit. She did end up leaving the team.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not something that we ever really talked about or discussed. I think that there was a effort, at least on my part, to try to understand a little bit. But again, it was a tumultuous time. There was already a process of me kind of moving on to another school. There was a lot of things kind of happening that I felt that we never really got to fully address. But at the same time, as I kind of reflect back, it was maybe there was an effort to try to kind of either reform a new identity or just try to kind of figure things out along the way. I mean, she was also a soccer player. Like, soccer was really important to her, but ultimately, she ended up leaving soccer to come full time to running. And then after this loss, there was a decision to leave the team and go back to soccer. And I had a hard time understanding it at the time. As you talk about it now, and as I reflect on it just over the years, I think about like, well, maybe, she really needed to kind of go back to soccer in that moment and get something from there as well.
Did you have other student athletes come to you individually to talk to you about what happened?
Yes. There were people who would come and talk to me individually. There were a lot of moments of, I think, group conversations, I think, that probably took place more frequently. But it was, overall, I think it was something that was really difficult for a lot of people to talk about.
Well, it was brutal
Yes.
too. We don't,
Yes.
it was not, it was violent.
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard to think about, huh?
Yes.
I can see it's still upsetting.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, you're getting me all choked up too. Yeah.
Earlier, you had mentioned kind of the loss of control, and I think that really, at least personally, speaks to me too, in my experience going through this, right? Because part of coaching was control, right? Being able to assess situations, adapt, change, pivot, and have control over the outcome. Also accepting when you can't control things, because sometimes just stuff happens and you can't change it. But this really kind of reminded me that there were things that are just outside of our control and that we can't always change. Gabby had come to me at one point, and she had told me during the fall prior to her passing. She was very, very honest. She told me at a practice one day, she said that, if it ever seems like I'm not giving it my all, and she always seemed like she was giving it her all. If it ever seems like I'm not giving my all, I just want you to know that I'm dealing with some stuff, right? That I've got from what I've got some depression, and I'm working on it, and I'm doing the best I can, right? But some days are harder than others. And I respected her immensely for even coming to me and sharing that with me.
Took a lot of courage.
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember in that moment, again, having a lot of respect for her and for her courage to say that to me, and saying to myself, this is always something that I'm gonna take care of her, right? I want to take care of the team, but I also want to take care of her. I know this is something that she's dealing with now, and I want to make sure that is helped, and then to find out what happened, right? I have no control over that. I thought I could control that situation, but I didn't have control at all.
Can I ask you a hard question?
Sure.
Knowing that she came to you, this is going to be a hard question. You probably know where I'm headed, but I'm going to ask you anyway, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Which is not fair because I haven't asked it, so you can't tell me no, I can't ask it. But the question is, she came to you, she disclosed to you courageously, you respected her and told yourself that you were going to take care of her. She said what was wrong. Was there ever a time where you felt like you missed something?
All the time. Yes.
Oh, that hits.
Yeah. And if I'm being completely honest with you, right, is that it's not something that I even fully realized until just recently. I mean, we're talking about, was in 2016. It was 9 years ago, which I was kind of even just reflecting upon before even coming in to talk to you today. And it wasn't until probably within this last year, with my own therapy experience, that I realized just how much that was impacting me. It was this idea that I missed something, that I could have done something differently. I could have done something to prevent this, right?
Okay.
If only I had worked a little bit harder. If only I had paid a little bit more attention. If only something could have been a little bit different. Maybe there would have been a different outcome.
What the hell do you do with the if-onlys?
That's a good question.
They're hard.
Yeah.
They're sticky, and sometimes they don't want to go anywhere. Have you been able to?
I feel I've been able to do a better job at it recently. Kind of come to a better understanding with myself that I did do everything that I could, really, and that realistically there was maybe nothing that I could have done differently. I went into every practice, I went into every meet with the mentality of, again, like wanting to be the best coach that I could, being in it for the process of just trying to help better these kids' lives in any way that I could. Yes, I wanted to make a career out of it. Yes, I wanted to try to continue to climb the ladder, so to speak. But the goal of being there was to be the best coach I could be for these kids. So, in that sense, I did do everything that I could.
I'm hearing a lot of self-forgiveness in that.
Yeah.
And that's taking quite a bit of reflection, not only to realize that you were feeling that way and paying attention to where you're feeling it in your body, because I hear because you do, it carries, it's heavy.
Yeah.
But also to realize that you did the best that you could with what you had at the time. I think that's one of the things that we who are grieving and dealing with what, if onlys and what ifs and shoulds and, shoulding all over yourself, so to speak, is to have that hindsight bias, which is never fair, to put today's knowledge on yesterday's problems, right? Yeah. And the guilt and the regret that can come from doing that to ourselves. We can't borrow tomorrow's knowledge on today's problems.
Sure.
And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it's really true. And if we're trying to find forgiveness for ourselves and develop self-compassion, I think we need to understand that we are looking at things from a lens of that's different than it was then, that we have hopefully more resources, self-knowledge, wisdom, or whatever, awareness,
Yeah.
and that you weren't alone in it. I'm imagining there probably is a lot of other people that have asked themselves that same question.